I never thought I'd be telling this story. 7 years of marriage, and I could have sworn I knew every expression on Becca's face, every inflection in her voice. We were that couple everyone looked up to. Just like Mike and Becca, they'd say. But I guess all these stories start the same way, don't they? With someone who had no idea. The first time I felt something was off was a Tuesday in October. Nothing dramatic, just the way she smiled at her phone, then quickly flipped it face down when I walked into the kitchen. I poured my coffee and asked about her day ahead, the usual. Meetings, calls, probably working late again. She'd been working late a lot recently. 3 times last week. I nodded and kissed her goodbye, ignoring the knot forming in my stomach. That evening, I ordered takeout from that Thai place on University Avenue and ate alone, the house too quiet around me. When she finally came home after 9, she smelled different. Not just her usual Chanel perfume, but something else I couldn't place. Sorry, I'm late. The Henderson account is killing me. I nodded, watching as she kicked off shoes I'd never seen before. Designer heels, not her usual practical work. Footwear. New shoes. Oh, these. Just something I picked up last weekend. On sale. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm exhausted. Mind if I take a shower and head to bed? Before I could answer, she was already walking away, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. We lived in Palo Alto, in one of those craftsman-style houses with the ridiculous mortgage that seemed to be a prerequisite for Silicon Valley living. I was a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company, and Becca was a marketing executive at a competing firm. We met at a tech conference in San Francisco 7 years ago. Cliché, I know, but it felt like fate at the time. We just clicked. Our routine had been comfortable. Mornings with coffee and shared New York Times articles. Evenings with Netflix and occasional dinner parties with other tech couples. We were stable, successful, the picture-perfect Silicon Valley power couple. Or so I thought. The next morning, I woke to find Becca already dressed and applying makeup in the bathroom. Unusual for her. Normally, we'd get up together, share breakfast, then head out. Early meeting, she explained, noticing my questioning look. Don't wait up tonight either. We're presenting to the board tomorrow, so it'll be another late one. 2 nights in a row? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. She paused, mascara wand hovering. That's how it goes sometimes. You know how it is during crunch time. I did know. I'd pulled plenty of late nights myself. But something felt different about her explanation. Too rehearsed, too quick. Maybe I could bring you dinner at the office, I suggested. That new Italian place delivers. No, she said sharply, then softened her tone. I mean, we'll probably order in as a team. But thanks for the thought. She kissed me goodbye. A quick peck, not our usual lingering kiss, and was gone before I could say anything else. That weekend, I met Dave for beers at the local microbrewery. Dave had been my best friend since college, the one person I could always talk to honestly. You're overthinking this, Mike, Dave said, sipping his IPA. We sat on the patio, one of those perfect California autumn days that made you forget winter existed elsewhere. Am I? She never used to hide her phone. Never. Everyone gets weird about their phones sometimes. Wanting privacy doesn't equal cheating. It's not just the phone, it's everything. The late nights. How she changes the subject when I ask about her day. Something's just different. Dave sighed. Look, man, I've known you both, 10 years? Becca adores you. Always has. Before you launch a full-scale investigation and potentially wreck your marriage over nothing, just talk to her. I nodded, but the knot in my stomach had only grown tighter. Maybe it's just work stress, Dave continued. Silicon Valley burnout is real. Sarah went through something similar last year, remember? Thought she was hiding something, but she was just dealing with anxiety about her startup funding. Maybe, I conceded, taking a long pull of my beer. When's the last time you two did something special? Just the two of you? I thought about it. Our anniversary dinner last month, I guess. That was 4 weeks ago. Maybe she just needs some attention. Take her out somewhere nice, reconnect. I nodded. Dave made sense. Maybe I was creating problems where none existed. That night, I made reservations at Alexander's Steakhouse, Becca's favorite restaurant. When she got home earlier than I expected, I suggested our date night. That's sweet, she said, looking genuinely touched. But I'm exhausted. Rain check. Sure, I said, swallowing my disappointment. No problem. She squeezed my hand. I promise we'll do it soon. It's just been crazy at work lately. Speaking of work, I said casually, how's that new project going? The one with the marketing rebrand? Oh, it's good. Chris thinks we should pivot the whole campaign, though. He's got amazing instincts. Chris. The name was new. He's been with the company about a year. Just moved to my department. She took a sip of wine. Actually, he might be at the industry mixer next week. You'll meet him. I nodded, noting how her cheeks flushed slightly when she mentioned his name. The next week brought more late nights, more vague explanations. I tried to focus on my own work, a new app we were developing, but found myself distracted. I started noticing other small changes. Becca had bought new clothes, nothing dramatic but more stylish, more expensive than her usual wardrobe. She'd changed her hairstyle too, adding subtle highlights that caught the light when she moved. The industry mixer was at an upscale bar downtown. I nursed a scotch while Becca worked the room, introducing me to colleagues whose names I immediately forgot. Then I saw her expression change as she waved someone over. Mike, this is Chris. Chris, my husband Mike. He was tall, confident, with the kind of smile that belonged in toothpaste commercials. We shook hands, his grip firm. Great to finally meet you, he said. Becca talks about you all the time. Somehow I doubted that. The way they interacted was subtle. Nothing inappropriate, nothing I could point to definitively. Just a certain familiarity. Inside jokes. The way she laughed a little too hard at his comments. The way their eyes held contact a moment too long. On the drive home, I asked casually, you and Chris seem close. We work together a lot, she said, looking out the window. He's good at his job. He seems nice. He is. She changed the subject. Did you talk to the contractor about the bathroom remodel? I let it drop, but that night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, listening to Becca's steady breathing beside me, wondering what was happening to us. Was I being paranoid? Was Dave right? Was this all in my head? The next morning I noticed Becca checking her phone before even getting out of bed. Something she'd never done before. She always said she hated starting the day with digital stress. When she went to shower, I fought the urge to look at her phone. I wasn't that guy. I didn't want to be that guy. But over the next few weeks, the evidence kept mounting. Deleted text threads. Unexplained absences. Once, I called her office when she was working late, and her assistant said she'd left hours ago. When confronted, Becca claimed she was working from a coffee shop for better focus. Our anniversary fell on a Thursday that year. I made reservations at the restaurant where I'd proposed, bought flowers, even left work early to shower and change. At 6:30, my phone buzzed. "Mike, I'm so sorry. Emergency with the Peterson campaign. I can't make dinner. It's our anniversary, Becca." I know. I feel terrible. Can we reschedule for tomorrow? I promise I'll make it up to you." I sat alone at our anniversary dinner, the waiter's pitying looks making it worse. I ordered a bottle of wine and drank most of it myself. She came home after midnight. I pretended to be asleep. I didn't want to be that guy. The one who checks his wife's phone, who looks for confirmation of his fears. But this new Becca, she was like a stranger. I remembered how she looked at him, at Chris. Just a fraction too long, too intensely. It was a fleeting moment, but it stuck with me, like a splinter under my skin. And that night, for the first time, she didn't kiss me goodnight. The next week, I found myself doing something I never thought I would. When Becca was in the shower, I checked our shared cloud account's location history. I told myself I was just curious, just wanting to see if her stories lined up. But deep down, I knew what I was looking for. And I found it. Thursday, when she said she was working late at the office. Location history showed a restaurant in San Jose. Tuesday, when there was a client meeting, the Fairmont Hotel. I felt my stomach clench. It was like falling from a height, that sensation of the ground disappearing beneath you. I checked our credit card statements next. Charges at restaurants I'd never heard of, a boutique lingerie store. And there it was, a hotel charge from the night of our anniversary. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark, listening to the sound of my own breathing. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to demand answers. But another part, the part that still loved her, still remembered the woman who'd been my best friend for 7 years, needed more time. Needed to be absolutely sure before I potentially blew up our marriage. For the next week, I paid closer attention. I noticed how she'd step outside to take certain calls, how she'd change the subject when I asked about specific meetings, how she'd come home some nights with her hair slightly disheveled, her lipstick touched up but not quite perfect. The definitive proof came when Becca lent me her laptop for work when mine was being repaired. She'd forgotten to log out of her email. I wasn't looking for evidence, not consciously, but there it was when I opened the browser. I stared at the messages, and the world around me seemed to stop. "Can't wait for tomorrow. M will be at the conference all day." His reply, "Miss you too. Our usual room." It's strange how physically you feel betrayal. It's not just emotional pain. It's like someone has vacuumed all the air from the room. I sat there, staring at the screen, unable to move until the letters began to blur before my eyes. I scrolled through their email thread, each message another knife in my chest. They'd been seeing each other for 3 months. 3 months of lies. 3 months of me being completely in the dark, while my wife shared herself with another man. I closed the laptop and went outside, needing fresh air. Our backyard was small but private, surrounded by the tall privacy hedges that were standard in our neighborhood where houses were too close together. I sat on the patio furniture we'd picked out together last summer, planning for years of backyard gatherings that now might never happen. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I functioned on autopilot at work, my mind constantly replaying moments from the past 3 months, looking for clues I'd missed, signs I should have seen. I waited 3 days before confronting her. I needed to be calm, collected. We sat at our kitchen table, the place where we'd shared thousands of meals, planned our future, laughed together. I need to ask you something, I said, my voice oddly steady. And I need you to be honest with me. She looked up from her coffee, something in my tone alerting her. Okay. Are you having an affair with Chris? Her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, denial, then something like resignation. Mike, please don't lie to me, not anymore. She looked down at her hands. They were trembling. Yes. One word, just 3 letters. How could something so small shatter everything? How long? 3 months. 3 months, I repeated. So when we celebrated our anniversary in Napa, Mike, please, were you seeing him then? It's a simple question, Becca. Her silence was answer enough. I stood and walked to the window, needing physical distance. Outside, our neighbor was mowing his lawn, the world continuing its normal rhythm while mine collapsed. I want you to understand something, I finally said. I'm not angry that you fell for someone else. I'm devastated that for 3 months you looked me in the eye every day and lied. You had thousands of chances to talk to me, to tell me something wasn't working. Instead, you chose this. It wasn't planned, she said, her voice small. It just happened. We were working late and please spare me the details. I turned to face her. Why? Was it something I did? Something I didn't do? She wiped a tear. You weren't there, Mike. Not really. For months. Years, maybe. You were physically present, but emotionally, you checked out. When was the last time you asked about my dreams, my fears? When did we last have a conversation that wasn't about work, or the house, or schedules? Her words hit me like a physical blow, because there was truth in them. I had been distant, focused on work, on providing the life I thought we both wanted. So instead of talking to me about it, you found someone who would listen. I tried talking to you. You didn't hear me. And that justifies betraying everything we built. No, she whispered. Nothing justifies that. I'm sorry. More sorry than you can imagine. We talked for hours that day. Really talked, perhaps, for the first time in years. About what went wrong. About what we both needed. About whether there was anything left to salvage. I moved out that night, staying with Dave temporarily. I needed perspective, space to think, without her presence clouding my judgment. The next few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights, conversations with friends, even a few sessions with a therapist. Becca called and texted daily, apologies, explanations, pleas to talk. She ended things with Chris, she said. It was a mistake. She wanted to work on our marriage. Part of me wanted to forgive her immediately, to go back to the life we had. But another part knew that life was gone forever. Trust, once broken, is like a shattered mirror. You can glue the pieces back together, but the cracks will always show. After a month apart, I agreed to meet her for coffee. Neutral territory. She looked different, thinner, paler, her eyes lacking their usual sparkle. I miss you, she said simply. I miss you too. The you I thought I knew. That is me, Mike. I made a terrible mistake, but it doesn't erase 7 years together. No, it doesn't. But it changes them. I don't know if I can ever truly forgive her. Maybe forgiveness isn't even the point. Maybe it's about accepting what happened and finding a path forward. Today I sit alone, watching rain fall outside the window. Each drop hitting the glass reminds me that time continues to move forward. Whatever happens next, I know I'll survive it. We all do. It's strange, but in some ways, I feel relieved. Living in ignorance is its own kind of lie. At least, now I know the truth. And with truth, I can do something. If this story touched you, leave a like to show your support, and subscribe for more whispered tales of heartbreak and hope.